everyone, welcome back to the channel and happy back to school. Now, this season is a very scary time for everybody, but I know it can be particularly stressful for my friends out there that are undergoing some pretty big transitions. Whether it be you're starting high school, you're starting university, med school, graduate school, or any kind of schooling, there is just something so nerve-wracking about having to adapt to a new learning style, to a new teaching environment, and trying to survive a very, very heavy course load. And a very popular question that I've been asked in the past is how I take notes, both for university and now in med school, and I thought hopefully I would try and alleviate some of that stress by telling you some of my note-taking strategies. So I'm gonna try and divvy this video up into two main chunks. The first one going through some of my past notes that I made in undergrad and showing you kind of my strategy for digesting all of the content and studying for my exams. And then I will be showing you my brand new note-taking strategy where I will be leveraging things like spaced repetition and using AI to optimize my studying methods specifically for medicine. And you guys know me, I'm an iPad girl through and through, so I will specifically be showing you my note-taking methods on the iPad, specifically using my favorite note-taking app, Notability. So here is how I take notes for school. So I'm so excited to be talking about Notability, who is very kindly sponsoring this video, and as you'll be able to see through my past notes, it was my main note-taking app all throughout undergrad and is still something that I use in med. Notability is a very powerful note-taking device that is designed for iOS and Mac OS devices. It combines handwriting, typing, and audio to create a very comprehensive and versatile note-taking experience. It was my go-to for annotating lecture slides, going through practice exams, creating summaries, and is basically what got me through all of my undergraduate studying. Okay, so let's start off by talking about how I am taking notes and I'm studying with Notability in med school. And I'm so lucky to be one of the first people to be trialing Notability's new AI feature called Learn. It's no surprise that there is so much to do and so much content to go through in med school. And with Learn, it takes the busy work out of studying by instantly generating summaries and interactive quizzes straight from your notes. Right now, Learn is a staged release and will become available to everyone gradually. Since it's very new and only just being released, it's only available for audio transcriptions, but later on you will be able to generate one-page review summaries and custom quizzes straight from your handwritten notes, PDFs, and more. So let's talk about what Learn actually looks like. With Learn, you are able to summarize your notes in an instant. Sometimes we have pages and pages worth of notes, and it can be super tedious and time-consuming to go through all of them, especially when we're just reviewing for exams, for example. But with a click of a button, we are able to generate an instant one-page summary of our notes based on what you've written, an audio recording, or a PDF. And this is super duper helpful when we've gone through the content, we're just reviewing, and we just want a high-level summary of what's most important in our notes. So you don't have to go through all of your notes and summarize it anymore, when now you can have AI just do it for you. And also with Learn, you're able to review with custom quizzes based on your own notes. We all know how important active recall is, but creating flashcards or creating your own practice questions is a lot of time making the active recall tools, but not actually doing the active recall. And with Learn, it will generate a custom summary and a quiz for you based on your notes or an audio recording. These quizzes are a great benchmark to assess what you currently know and will help you identify weak spots on what you need to work on a bit more. It just helps you prioritize what topics you actually need to focus on, and overall it just saves you time as you can tailor your study sessions to your weak points, which is just effective studying all around. So with Learn, you can stop spending time mindlessly highlighting and rereading your notes or coming up with your own review questions and jump straight to actively testing yourself, actually learning the content, and identifying what the topics are that you need to focus on. And as a busy medical student, having AI take all the busy work out of my studying has been an invaluable time saver, and in the short amount of time that I've had it has really played major dividends in my study routine. So let's see what it actually looks like for me to use the new Notability Learn function.
Welcome to Emergency Medicine videos. This is part 1 of arrhythmia. We will focus on bradycardic rhythm reduction.
Okay, we're going to stop there for now. That's what I have so far in my lecture, and you'll see that I was kind of struggling to keep up with everything, especially now that we don't have slides. I just have to take notes as they tell me. So not only do you have a recording of the lecture, but you're also able to see what you wrote at what time, just like this.
And down the Hesperian fibers.
So you can see how I'm falling behind, but it's helpful to see what you wrote at what point of the lecture. And so now that we have our audio recording, this is where the magic happens, and we're going to click the learn function here on the top right corner, just like that. And you're going to see that it's going to generate our summary and our quiz for us. And the really exciting thing is that it's combining a lot of the different steps that I had in my undergrad note-taking process, like the annotating, the summary, and the quiz/Anki, and it's gonna jumble that all together with a click of a button. So when Notability's learn function finally launches, it will work with any note you have, whether it be handwritten, audio recording, or PDF, and it will turn it into summaries and quizzes for you. So here in the 3-minute recording that I had of my lecture, it has a pretty darn good transcript of everything that the professor said, which is so great if they talk so fast and you're a slow typer or writer like I am. And so not only did it have a summary and a transcript of everything, but look, we can start the quiz and it turns it into a quiz, which is actually bananas. And now you're going to see me struggle to answer this together. So this is fully based on the audio recording that we gave it, and it turned it into questions for us. And we know that one of the best ways to learn is to do things like active recall and all of these practice questions. So this is so cool. Okay, normal pacemaker of the heart, SA node. Great. P wave represents atrial depolarization. The QRS complex represents ventricular depolarization. The T wave ventricular repolarization. Yeah, less than 60. Oh, that's so cute. Oh wow, that's so cool. So yeah, I'm so excited to showcase this learn function for you guys, and even though it's still a little bit limited in that I can only do audio recordings right now, I can just imagine the possibilities of what you can do with this. So yeah, now that I'm working in the hospital but I still have to study, this is just going to save me so much time. So instead of having to transcribe everything that my lecturers say, I can just take an audio recording and you can see that the transcripts are very accurately listed over here on the side, and I can just refer back to it. And instead of having to create my own summaries and quiz myself, you could see that Learn does everything for you. Oh, that's so cool. That's so exciting. So this is all still very new for me. I'm very excited to learn more about it and use it to save me time and optimize my studying. I'm so excited to continue using this in my lecture. After this video, I'm actually going to be doing these lectures and using this learn function. So I hope you found that helpful. And so with that being said, let's go right ahead and talk a little bit about how I took notes in undergrad. Okay, so my undergraduate degree was in physiology and pharmacology, so it's very dense, content-heavy topics, a lot of lectures, a lot of things to memorize, and this is kind of how I was able to parse everything out. So I would say that my studying pipeline was pretty straightforward. I would start off by attending classes, and I would have the lecture slides ready on Notability, and I would annotate them throughout class. Then I would go home, and then I would either create a review summary of everything that I learned or a mind map, depending on what the class entailed. I would then either turn it into Anki cards or just keep doing practice questions, and then finally I would finish off by doing a bunch of practice questions, and that's how I studied. So I can give you a bit of a tour to better exemplify that. So let's start off by looking at the annotation side of things. So here is all of my undergrad classes. And let's look at something like my cell biology class, which was very dense from what I remember. You can see that the first thing that I did in the beginning of the year was that I took a look at the syllabus and I wanted to see what all of the lecture topics were, and I went ahead and I just wrote that out in one sheet. So as I was attending all of the lectures and creating all of my review summaries, I can kind of contextualize everything and see how we were progressing throughout the syllabus. So in order to open my lecture slides in Notability, I would just open the slides up on my iPad like this, and I would just press the share button and I would open it in Notability. And I would create a brand new slide like this. And you can see that it's ready to be annotated. So I'm sitting down my lecture, I'm trying to absorb as much of the content as possible, and if the professor adds something that's not on the slides that I think might be relevant, or something that would help me better understand what's on the slides, I would go ahead and write it down. So for example, I would say, okay, and so basically how I would annotate my lecture slides is that I would zoom into a chunk that I want to annotate, I would draw a little line like this, and then I would just write my little note off to the side. I really like making my notes multicolored. I feel like it would have been smarter if you designated specific colors for certain things. And if you wanted to change the colors here in Notability, you can just go to the pen function and tap a color, and you can see there are so many different options to choose from, and then you can add your own custom colors as well. If I wanted to highlight something, they have a highlighter over here, and then I would just highlight the relevant details. And if you're someone that prefers typing instead of the handwritten notes, they also have a text box option over here, and you can just type by showing the keyboard. Hello. And then I would just sit in the lecture, I would try my best to pay attention as best as I can, and I would continue to annotate the slides all the way till the end, so I can show you what these actually looks like. And here's a really good example of how my annotations look like in undergrad. So sometimes they'll just put a picture of a process like this co-translational translocation, and it's just from a textbook and you don't understand what's going on. So while the professor is going through this step by step, I make sure to take notes, label everything, label what everything is, label the process and the function of everything, just so when I go back and review, it's not just an empty picture, it actually has content that makes sense. And yeah, that was the annotation process. I feel like it helped me stay really engaged in lecture. So instead of just dozing off or losing track of focus, I was really in there just taking those notes. And these lectures were very, very dense and very complicated. So I really liked being able to draw directly onto the diagrams with notes that I understood. And that brings us off to the second phase of my note-taking process, which is where I would take a lot of the big picture stuff from these lectures and turn it into either mind maps or review summaries. So for something like cell biology or pharmacology that was very content heavy, that's when I would do these tree diagrams. And so what I would do is I would create a new page, which you could see here in the top right corner. I would write the main topic here in the middle, and then I would create just branches of all the different subtopics. Subtopic 1. Sometimes ideas would connect like this or connect like this. And I really like this branching method because you can kind of see big picture how everything is connected. So I would take all of my lecture slides and I would turn them into tree diagrams like this. So you could see for my actin components, my actin binding proteins, and I would just do this over and over and over again. Once again, I really like to use different colors to kind of compartmentalize things, and it's just more pleasant for me to review when it's super late at night and I'm studying. And you can see how a topic as simple as myosin and the sarcomeres can be divided into myosin and the sarcomeres, and from there we look at the structures and the classes, conformational changes, how we go to the SR, the skeletal muscle structure, and you'll see that things branch out so much and we break things down to their very basic components and we see how everything connects. And one of my favorite notes to revisit are the ones that I took for pharm, because anyone who studies drugs knows how crazy and intense it is. Like if we take a look at my antihypertensive agents, like this is insane. So this is everything that we do to reduce blood pressure, and we can use diuretics, we can use beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, and I would break everything up as much as possible. So if we follow one of them, we can look at diuretics and how there are different kinds like loop diuretics, aldosterone blockers, potassium sparing ones, thiazides, and then from there, what are the aldosterone blockers? There's spironolactone, eplerenone, MOAs, and then I break them down into what they are, their functions, their side effects. And I remember I had an exam question asking which antihypertensive agent can cause gynecomastia, which is like breast development in men. And I genuinely remembered this pathway from diuretics to aldosterone blockers to eplerenone. And I remember seeing this over here and I got that question right. So I really adore having these tree diagrams. So you see that I did it for all my different drugs. So if I wasn't doing the tree diagrams, I was doing review summaries, and these were more relevant in my more calculation heavy classes such as organic chemistry and biostatistics. So we could see here in organic chemistry, I would create these things called cheat sheets, which were basically just summaries of the content from that specific lecture. So you'll see that our classes were separated into different modules. So for the modules, I would try and create a very condensed overview of everything. So instead of a tree diagram, this is a more kind of linear summary of what everything is. And I would just have a bunch of different drawings, which is why I love Notability and I love my iPad, because I could draw everything out. So this one isn't as interesting. I would just highlight the different topics and I would just write everything and draw everything out. And this was great because I could practice all of these drawings while also creating just a summary of all of these different pathways. Okay, and then my next step is that I would turn these into Anki cards, and I'm going to link my Anki video somewhere up here so you could see how I did that. But I would go back to my individual lectures as well as my summaries, and I would turn those into flashcards and I would just review them. I don't have them on me now because it's been a while, but I could show you kind of what the Anki cards would look like. I would turn that into this and I would go ahead and just do the lectures. questions. Okay, and the final step, and I would argue one of the most important ones, is to do practice questions, especially if you're lucky enough to get practice questions that were made by the professor who's teaching the class. This is, I think, the best way to learn, is because you're able to practice your stamina in answering these questions and also get a feel for the type of question that you will get in your exam. So I would just open the practice exam on my iPad, I would go through and answer all the questions, and once I'm reviewing everything with the answer key, not only would I review what I got wrong, but I would also review what I got right. So for example, we can look at this question 1 here. Even though I did get this right, I still went back and wrote all the different answers of why A was wrong, why B was wrong, why D was wrong, and why C was correct. And you'll see that all of my pink notes is just me explaining to myself why each option, was right or wrong. And you can see I was very, very extensive with it because this is truly the best way to learn. So I would go in, I would take all of the different notes to make sure that I truly understood the rationale behind each answer. And that was pretty much my note-taking pathway. So I went from annotating to creating a mind map or a summary sheet to creating flashcards to doing practice questions, and that was enough for me to get through what I think was a pretty dense and difficult undergrad and, have decent enough marks to get into med school. So that was it for undergrad. If you have any questions at all, make sure to throw them in the comments down below. I wish you the best for the back to school season. It's not as scary as it seems, and you guys are going to do great. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!